All right, we're rolling. Lila, I had a lot of fun working with you today. I know you were enjoying this bully stick. This is Lila's roadmap to success. So some of her problems are barking, marking. We didn't really touch on the marking, but marking is really something a dog does when it perceives itself to be in a leadership position. And I think the genesis of her problems, I think that she was confused in thinking that she was responsible for her humans. So when people bark, noises came from outside, she barked at them to say, I disagree with you making sounds. When people come in the door, she jumps up on them as a way of kind of saying either I'm claiming you as my property or I want you to know that I'm the top, I'm in charge around here. So to flip the leader-follower dynamic, we went over some suggested rules and ways to add structure. Some of the rules would be the dog's not allowed to be on the furniture, so this is your last time on the furniture for a little while, sweetheart. For 30 days or as long as the problems are still going on. At the end of that period of time, furniture with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if you invited her up here, she started barking, she has to immediately get down. Also, this is the same authority as the human. This has more authority than the human. So I would not allow her here because she looks down at you, number one, and she also looks out the front window out on the street, and that's going to make her more reactive to people out there. Let me see. Other rules, she's not allowed to be within 7 feet of anyone who's eating. We established, I went through how to create an invisible boundary to the kitchen. The guardian may want to put down painter's tape or something initially. What I would do is put the painter's tape down, and after a couple days, take an X-Acto knife and make dashes and pull every other one out. Then every week, pull every other dash out. So eventually it disappears, but she knows where the boundary is. For dogs, something people don't realize is that a lot of human foods are actually toxic to dogs, including garlic and onion. Most human food has garlic and onion in it. Giving your dog human food like that is actually not healthy for them, number one, but it is very disrespectful to a dog to become within 7 feet of anyone who's eating food unless they're challenging for that food. So if we have like some friends or neighbors or somebody comes by and they're giving the dog people food, not only are they doing something that's hurtful for the dog, but they're also training the dog to do something that it knows it should not do, and that's going to impact a lot of other behaviors. So if we do have any guests or neighbors or people stay there, please let them know, hey, we can't feed the dog any people food. We ask you to please be respectful. We're getting good progress because she responded really, really well, but it's going to need to be consistent. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Okay, so let me see. Other rules I would have is before you let her in or out of a door, she should have to sit. If I go to the door and say sit once, and she doesn't sit within 2 or 3 seconds, I walk away. I wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, I come back, and again, I tell her, don't ask. Sit. If she doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes. Next time for 4 minutes. Next time for 8 minutes. So you keep on doubling the length of time. And use your phone. Siri, give me a 60-second timer. You got to stay up here, sweetheart. All right. And as soon as her butt hits the ground, we open that door and let her out. Now, we have a little baby play area that we set up over here. The guardian is showing it. And so if we're going to let her out, I would go and open that door to the play gate. And then I would stand blocking her from exiting. If she tries to come out, use the escalating consequence, hiss at her. And then tell her to sit. If she sits, then I open the door, or it's already open, and then I back up and let her out. If she doesn't sit, I would close the door, walk away, play guitar, or do something for 60 seconds, then go back and repeat the process. So after a while, right now she's jumping up on the wall to say out, I want out, and then she starts barking. And she's going to keep on disobeying or doing mischievous behavior until she gets her way. And that's something a lot of people do, is the only way they give their dog attention is when it does the wrong thing. And we train our dogs to do the wrong thing to get our attention. So in that case, we'll train her that as soon as you go and sit at the door, that's a polite way of asking. So if you see her go sit at the door and you can let her out because the baby's away, make sure you do so. Otherwise, she will continue going to other things. Now, like I said, a lot of people focus on the negative and correcting their dog, and that creates a situation where the dog does the wrong thing intentionally to get that attention, because good attention from the humans and bad attention is almost the same thing. Additionally, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. This can include fear, anxiety, barking, jumping up, and I saw the dog jump up on humans, and then we reached over and petted her. Well, that teaches her that's the proper way to ask. So there's something called manding in the dog training world, or learning demand, which means the dog sits as a way of asking for something from the humans. So I came up with something called petting with a purpose years ago, where what I do is I say, if the dog nudges you or scratches you, instead of petting the dog doing what it's telling you to do, give it a counter order. Tell it to sit. When it sits, pet it under its chin, say just the word sit. Most of us talk way too much to our dogs during training. Now, if you have a crappy day, you come home, you're like, oh my God, you believe that woman flipped me the bird? I haunted her, stopped her from rear-ending me, and she flipped me the bird? What? That's healthy. But if you're training your dog, you want to use as few words as possible. One of the things I usually recommend my clients do is write down a list of all the command words and put it somewhere, because she's gone through a couple different versions of command words. And it's easier if one person says come, somebody else says come here, somebody else says their name, somebody else whistles, somebody else taps their thigh. Now she's got to listen for all these different words. So instead, if everybody always says here, it makes it a lot easier and faster for the dog to respond. So petting with a purpose is when the dog tells me what to do, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to give it a counter order. When it does what I want, it's going to get rewarded. After a while, the dog will come and sit in front of you to demand or prepay to ask for attention. When it does, make sure you pet it and say the word sit or come or whatever it happened to be doing at the time. That also leads me to something I call passive training, which I go over with all my clients. It's the easiest, absolute easiest way to train your dog. You wait for the dog to do a desired action and just simply reward it within that 3-second window. So the dog sits down, you pet it and say sit. It comes to you, you pet it and say come. You didn't ask it to come. You just waited for it to do it on its own, and you recognized and rewarded the desired behavior. The more you do that, the more the dog will start to do those desired behaviors to get your attention. And the next time you give the command to sit or to come, it's much more likely to do so because it knows it's going to get a benefit, or it has motivation or a reason to listen. Let's see, we went through the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted behaviors. Now, I prefer to use positive reinforcement, so if the dog's going in the kitchen, we can use the third escalating consequence to move the dog away, but a better thing to do is condition the dog to go to playa, which is the little doggy play area, or to go to penthouse, which is the little doggy kennel that we set up behind the deal. So this way we can give the dog an incentive to do the thing that we want through using positive reinforcement, and the dog wants to do what we want as opposed to being punished or fearing a reprisal. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over a focus exercise. If you can't remember how to do the focus exercise, message me. I have hundreds of videos where I can send you me doing with the different dogs. Now when you're doing the focus, remember it's 1 second, 1 second for all 12 treats. Next person does 1 second, 2 seconds on the second movement only. And keep on doing this every day until you get to the point where it's 1 second, 20 seconds on that last movement. And you want to do it first in the house when there's no distractions, and then in different parts of the house. Then eventually we want to do it, when we get to 20 seconds, we go out in the back and do it outside, but go back to 1 second. And then we practice and get ourselves back up to 20 seconds out there. Then we come back and we do it in the front. Then we eventually do it on walks, and then we do it with distractions, with the baby crying and music playing and all the rest of that stuff, because that's the life that we live. We want to teach the dog to focus and focus through all the distractions. I know that chewing is hard work. Isn't that great how big her afro is? I was telling the Guardians, I love this. I've worked with a lot of Bichons. I've never seen one this big. It's awesome. It's like a basketball. Let me see, what else? Set her up for, and help her practice. Like, one of the things that happens is the baby drops, or if the baby's in the high chair, she wants to kind of hang out because the baby drops stuff, and the baby will drop more and more stuff once he starts feeding himself. So by teaching the dog to stay away from there, by recreating a situation. So I had the helper drop a little piece of chicken on the floor. When she started going towards it, we used the first escalating consequence, warned her once, she turned and walked away, waited about 5 minutes, she tried a second time, we warned her a second time, that was it, she stopped trying to go over there. Now, she tried to go over there later on after that, so it's one of those things where we're going to have to practice this in different situations, but only practice it when you have time to do it. If you're distracted, that's not a good time to practice. That's a good time to put the dog in the playroom or in the kennel or in a different room, so we don't have the dog practice doing the wrong thing. Let me see, but petting with a purpose and passive training are some of the easiest things that we can do. I also went over how to teach the dog to come. Remember when you're doing that, to hold your hand slightly, fingered, slightly cupped. Not like this, but just slightly cupped. And as I lower it, if you watch this, I raise my fingers as I lower it to block the dog from seeing into my hand. When I want the dog to sit, I go over in an arc over the head. As soon as the dog sits, I lower my hand, let her lick it off my hand, and then I say the word sit or come, and then I tickle her under her chin. Always try to pet under the chin when all things are equal. Never pet her on top of the head because that'll create a downward orientation. Let me see, also always walk through her. She needs to learn the choreography. When the human's around and the human's walking through, my job is to defer and get out of their way because I'm a follower, not a leader. But if you walk around her, she's not going to learn that lesson. And she might bump into the little guy. Let me see, what else? Burning energy is important. So make sure you stand up and follow through 100% of the time for the first month. If you are inconsistent, you'll follow through one time and don't follow through, she's going to test you to see. And when she tests and she's doing things, testing borders and boundaries, she's not doing it to be defiant. She's doing it to determine, does this boundary still exist in the morning, in the evening, when we're eating, when people are playing guitar, all these different things that are going on. So the more that we are consistent, the easier it will help her. If we come in the room and we see someone's petting the dog without asking the dog to do something, the dog's standing, we say paycheck. That person stops petting the dog. Paycheck just means I suspect you may have forgotten to ask the dog to sit first. The more we make her sit and lay down or come before she gets a reward, the more she's going to feel pride for doing those, and the more inclined she will do that to get the reward. If we pet our dog ad nauseum, there's not really much motivation for them to listen to us. We went to a structured, I suggest going to a structured feeding. Right now we leave the food in her bowl. I would put the food down. Make sure the human who's feeding her eats first. Dogs eat in the order of their rank. The human needs to eat first. Otherwise, the dog doesn't see you as having even eating privileges, and you're not looked as an authority figure. It doesn't have to be a real meal. Just one chip that you eat in five small bites. Then give her permission to eat. What I do is I use passive training. When the dog takes the first bite, I say grub, chow, feast, comida, whatever word you want to use. When they take their first bite for about 2 months. After a while, you can say comida, and the dog will run over and eat their food because they know that's the command word to eat. We also went over stay. Again, another command that I have videos I can show you how to do if you want to work on that. Because she follows her guardian, a primary guardian, all over the house, once you can teach her stay, remember for the 3 Ds, first for duration, then for distance, then for distractions. Then you can put her in a stay, go to the bathroom. Come back, make sure I always release her. And then so she doesn't auto-release. But now you can help her practice being alone with you still being in the house, so it's not as hard a thing to do. Now, if I'm forgetting anything, I want the guardians to call me or text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. And I don't charge for phone calls. I want you to call me or text me. So please don't hesitate. The sooner you call me or text me, the faster. I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else, sweetheart? Did I talk about the focus exercise?
You talked about focus.
I did. Oh, so
Yeah,
again, let me
that
know
one.
if you have a video, if you need a video for that. All right, well, this is her roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. Isn't that right?